Have you ever wondered if your thoughts are more than fleeting whispers in the mind? If they are, in fact, the architects of your destiny? Imagine for a moment that every negative thought you entertain is not merely a private shadow, but a seed sown in the fertile soil of your soul, destined to bloom into unseen consequences. What if the silent monologue of doubt, fear, and criticism is not just a personal burden, but a force that shapes the very fabric of your spiritual reality? In the hidden chambers of ancient temples, mystics whispered of a law more subtle than gravity, a law that binds thought to outcome, intention to experience. They spoke of the mind as a sacred loom, weaving the tapestry of our lives with threads of belief and emotion. To them, negative thinking was not a harmless indulgence, but a poison that seeps into the roots of the spirit, stunting growth and dimming the inner light. Tonight, we journey beyond the surface of psychology and self-help, venturing into the shadowy corridors of esoteric wisdom. We will explore the spiritual consequences of negative thinking, not as a moral failing, but as a metaphysical phenomenon with real, tangible effects on our energy, our destiny, and our connection to the divine. In this video, we will unearth the forgotten teachings of sages and philosophers, decode the hidden mechanics of thought, and reveal how negativity can entangle the soul in invisible chains. We will also discover practical techniques, ancient and modern, for transmuting these shadows into light and for reclaiming the sovereignty of your inner world. Are you ready to peer behind the veil and confront the true power of your thoughts? The journey begins now. To truly grasp the spiritual consequences of negative thinking, we must first step back in time, beyond the reach of modern science, into the twilight realms where philosophy, mysticism, and ancient wisdom converge. Here, in the flickering candlelight of forgotten libraries and sacred groves, the mind was not seen as a mere byproduct of the brain, but as a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Consider the teachings of the ancient Egyptians, who believed that every thought was weighed in the afterlife against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and harmony. In their cosmology, negative thoughts, resentment, envy, despair, were not just emotional states, but spiritual impurities that could tip the scales against the soul, binding it to cycles of suffering and rebirth. The heart, seat of thought and emotion, was judged not by its deeds alone, but by the quality of its inner life. Travel eastward, and we find the sages of India, whose Upanishads whisper of manas and chitta, the mind and the field of consciousness. Here, negative thinking is likened to clouds obscuring the radiant sun of the true self. The yogis taught that every thought vibrates through the subtle body, leaving impressions, or samskaras, that shape future experiences. To indulge in negativity is to carve grooves of suffering into the soul's memory, perpetuating cycles of ignorance and pain. In the shadowed halls of ancient Greece, philosophers like Plato and Pythagoras spoke of the mind as a tuning fork, resonating with the harmonies or disharmonies of the cosmos. Negative thinking, they warned, distorts this resonance, creating dissonance not only within the individual, but in the world at large. The Stoics, too, saw the mind as the only true domain of mastery, urging their followers to guard against the corrosive effects of negative judgments and passions. The Hermetic tradition, shrouded in secrecy and symbol, proclaims, "As within, so without." This axiom, echoed in alchemical texts and mystical treatises, reveals a profound truth. The inner world is the template for the outer. Negative thinking, then, is not a private affair, but a force that ripples outward, shaping reality itself. The alchemists believed that to transmute lead into gold was above all an inner process, the purification of thought, the elevation of consciousness. Even in the Abrahamic traditions, the power of thought is not overlooked. In the Book of Proverbs, we read, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." The Kabbalists, delving into the mysteries of the tree of life, teach that negative thoughts create klipo, shells or husks, that obscure the divine spark within. These shells must be shattered through conscious effort, allowing the soul to return to its source. Across cultures and centuries, a single thread emerges: the recognition that thoughts are not ephemeral, but substantial, capable of shaping fate, health, and spiritual evolution. Negative thinking, in this view, is a subtle toxin, a spiritual pollutant that clouds perception, weakens will, and severs the connection to higher realms. As we move forward, keep these ancient perspectives in mind. They are not mere relics of superstition, but signposts pointing toward a deeper understanding of the mind's true power. In the next section, we will begin to unravel the core mechanics of negative thinking, how it operates, why it is so seductive, and what hidden costs it exacts upon the soul. Imagine your mind as a vast, enchanted garden. Each thought is a seed, and with every moment of attention, you water and nurture what you have planted. Positive thoughts, hope, gratitude, compassion, grow into radiant blossoms, filling the air with fragrance and light. But negative thoughts, fear, anger, self-doubt, are like invasive weeds. Left unchecked, they spread their roots deep, choking the life from everything around them. But what is it about negative thinking that makes it so potent, so persistent? To answer this, we must look beyond the surface, into the hidden architecture of consciousness. At its core, negative thinking is a distortion of perception, a lens that colors reality in shades of shadow. It is the mind's tendency to fixate on what is lacking, what is broken, what might go wrong. This habit is not merely psychological, it is energetic. In many esoteric traditions, thoughts are seen as vibrations, each carrying a unique frequency. Negative thoughts vibrate at a lower frequency, creating a dense, heavy atmosphere within the subtle body. Over time, this energetic residue accumulates, forming what some mystics call psychic debris. This debris is not just metaphorical. Sensitive individuals, empaths, healers, mystics, often describe feeling a literal heaviness in the presence of chronic negativity, as if the very air has thickened. In the language of Eastern spirituality, this is the accumulation of tamas, the quality of inertia, darkness, and stagnation. Tamas clouds the mind, saps vitality, and makes spiritual progress difficult, if not impossible. But the consequences do not end there. Negative thinking acts as a magnet, drawing to itself experiences and circumstances that resonate with its frequency. This is the principle behind the law of attraction, but it is echoed in countless traditions. The Buddha taught that, with our thoughts, we make the world. The Hermeticists would say, mind is the builder. When we dwell in negativity, we unconsciously invite more of the same into our lives, reinforcing the very patterns we wish to escape. There is also a subtler, more insidious effect. Negative thinking creates a feedback loop, a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we focus on what is wrong, the more evidence we find to support our beliefs. The mind, ever loyal to its programming, filters reality to confirm its expectations. This is the Maya of the mind, the illusion that keeps us trapped in cycles of suffering. Consider the story of the two wolves, told by Native American elders. Within each of us, they say, are two wolves locked in eternal battle, one of light, one of shadow. The wolf that wins is the one you feed. Every negative thought is a morsel tossed to the shadow wolf, strengthening its grip on your destiny. Yet, the true danger of negative thinking is not just in what it attracts, but in what it obscures. It blinds us to the beauty, the possibility, the divinity that is ever present. It is as if we are standing in a sunlit field, but have chosen to wear a blindfold of our own making. The light is there, but we cannot see it. In this first part of our exploration, we have begun to unravel the mechanics of negative thinking, its energetic residue, its magnetic pull, its self-reinforcing nature, and its power to obscure the light within and around us. But there is more to this story, deeper layers, hidden traps, and unexpected consequences that await those who venture further. Let us now descend even deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the soul, where the true consequences of negative thinking are both subtle and profound. If the first layer is the garden choked by weeds, the second is the soil itself, altered, depleted, and rendered inhospitable to the seeds of higher consciousness. Negative thinking, in its most insidious form, is not just a passing cloud, but a climate, a persistent atmosphere that shapes the very landscape of our inner world. Over time, this climate can harden into what the mystics call an egregore, a collective thought form, a living entity born from repeated patterns of thought and emotion. In ancient occult traditions, egregores were said to feed on the energy of their creators, growing stronger with every repetition. On a personal level, our habitual negativity can become an inner tyrant, a self-created warden that polices our thoughts, limits our vision, and drains our spiritual vitality. This is not mere metaphor. In the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, for example, negative thoughts are likened to maras, demons that obstruct the path to enlightenment. These maras are not external monsters, but internal forces: doubt, fear, jealousy, and self-hatred. Each time we indulge in negative thinking, we empower these maras, allowing them to build walls around the heart and mind. The result is spiritual stagnation, a sense of being trapped, unable to move forward no matter how much we strive. But the consequences reach even further. In the Kabbalistic tradition, negative thoughts are said to create klipo, or shells, that encase the soul in layers of spiritual opacity. These shells block the flow of divine light, making it difficult to experience joy, inspiration, or connection to the sacred. The more we dwell in negativity, the thicker these shells become, until the soul feels isolated, cut off from its source. Modern science, too, offers a mirror to these ancient insights. Neuroscience has shown that repeated negative thinking strengthens neural pathways associated with fear, anxiety, and pessimism. The brain, ever adaptable, becomes wired for negativity, making it harder to break free from these patterns. This is the biological echo of the spiritual truth. What we focus on, we become. Yet there is a paradox at the heart of this mystery. Negative thinking, for all its destructive power, is not inherently evil. It is, in many ways, a teacher, a shadow that reveals where the light is needed most. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is the repository of all we reject or deny within ourselves. To confront our negative thoughts is to embark on the hero's journey, descending into the underworld to reclaim lost fragments of the soul. The alchemists understood this well. They spoke of the nigredo, the blackening stage, where all that is impure rises to the surface. It is a time of darkness, confusion, and despair, but also of profound transformation. Only by facing the darkness within can we transmute lead into gold, ignorance into wisdom, suffering into compassion. There is also a hidden gift in negative thinking, the opportunity for awakening. Each negative thought, if met with awareness, becomes a doorway, a chance to see through the illusion, to recognize the mind's tricks, and to choose a different path. The Sufis call this remembrance, the act of waking up from the trance of negativity and returning to the heart. In summary, the spiritual consequences of negative thinking are manifold. It creates energetic residue, attracts suffering, reinforces illusion, and builds walls around the soul. Yet, within this darkness lies the seed of transformation. The very thoughts that bind us can, if approached with courage and wisdom, become the keys to our liberation. In the next section, we will turn from theory to practice, exploring ancient and modern techniques for breaking the chains of negative thinking and reclaiming the radiant garden of the mind. Now that we have traversed the shadowed halls of theory and myth, it is time to step into the light of practice. For what use is wisdom if it cannot be lived, if it remains a distant star rather than a lantern in the hand? The ancients did not merely warn of the dangers of negative thinking. They offered tools, rituals, and disciplines to transmute shadow into light. The first and most essential practice is that of awareness. In the mystical traditions of both East and West, awareness is likened to a lamp that dispels darkness. Begin by observing your thoughts as they arise without judgment or resistance. Imagine yourself as a silent witness, seated at the threshold of your mind's temple, watching the parade of thoughts pass by. When a negative thought appears, do not fight it or feed it. Simply acknowledge its presence. This act of witnessing breaks the spell of identification and weakens the grip of the shadow. To deepen this practice, consider the ancient yogic technique of Pratipaksha Bhavana, described in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. When a negative thought arises, consciously cultivate its opposite. If you notice anger, summon compassion. If you feel fear, evoke courage. This is not mere positive thinking, but a deliberate act of inner alchemy, transforming base emotions into spiritual gold. Over time, this practice rewires the mind, creating new grooves of harmony and resilience. Another powerful tool is ritual purification. In many traditions, water is used to symbolize the cleansing of the mind and spirit. You might create your own ritual. As you bathe or wash your hands, visualize the water carrying away the residue of negative thoughts, leaving you refreshed and renewed. The Sufis perform dhikr, the remembrance of the divine, repeating sacred phrases to dissolve the shells of negativity and return to the heart's center. Journaling is a modern adaptation of an ancient practice. Each evening, write down the negative thoughts that have visited you during the day. Then, beside each one, write a counter thought, an affirmation, a blessing, or a lesson learned. This act of externalizing your inner dialogue brings clarity and perspective, turning the chaos of the mind into a map for transformation. Breathwork and meditation are also invaluable. The breath is the bridge between body and spirit, and conscious breathing can dispel the fog of negativity. Try this. When you notice a negative thought, pause and take 3 slow, deep breaths. With each exhale, imagine releasing the thought into the vastness of the sky. With each inhale, draw in light, peace, and possibility. Of course, the path is not always easy. The roots of negativity run deep, and old patterns may resist change. When you stumble, remember the words of the Tao Te Ching. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Celebrate small victories. Be gentle with yourself. The garden of the mind is tended not in a day, but with patient, loving care. Finally, seek community. In the ancient mystery schools, seekers gathered to support one another, to share insights and encouragement. Find those who uplift you, who remind you of your highest self. Share your journey, your struggles, and your triumphs. In the company of kindred spirits, the work becomes lighter, the shadows less daunting. By weaving these practices into your daily life, you begin to reclaim the sovereignty of your mind. The chains of negativity loosen, the shells around the soul begin to crack, and the light within grows ever brighter. The journey is ongoing, but every step is a victory, a testament to the power of conscious, intentional living. As our journey draws to a close, let us pause and reflect on the hidden truths we have unearthed. We began with a question, a whisper from the depths. What are the spiritual consequences of negative thinking? We wandered through the temples of ancient Egypt, the forests of India, the halls of Greece, and the secret chambers of the mystics, discovering that our thoughts are not mere shadows, but living forces that shape our destiny. We have seen how negative thinking, left unchecked, weaves a web of energetic residue, attracts suffering, and builds invisible walls around the soul. We have learned that these thoughts are not just fleeting moods, but seeds that take root in the garden of our spirit, growing into patterns that can either imprison or liberate us. Yet, within this darkness, we have also found the promise of transformation, the alchemical truth that every shadow contains the seed of light. You now hold in your hands the tools of the ancient seekers: awareness, conscious transformation, ritual, breath, and community. These are not relics of a forgotten age, but living practices, waiting to be awakened in your daily life. Each time you choose to witness a negative thought rather than become it, each time you transmute fear into courage or anger into compassion, you reclaim a piece of your sovereignty. You become the gardener, the alchemist, the master of your own fate. So I invite you, do not let this wisdom remain a distant echo. Take it into your heart, your mind, your breath. Begin today, right now, to observe your thoughts, to tend your inner garden, to walk the path of conscious creation. The journey is not always easy, but every step is a return to your true self, a step closer to the radiant light that has always been yours. Remember, the world you see is shaped by the thoughts you think. As you transform your inner world, so too will the outer world begin to change. This is the secret of the sages, the promise of the mystics, and the birthright of every soul. If this exploration has stirred something within you, I encourage you to reflect, to practice, and to share your journey with others. The path of awakening is not walked alone. Together, we can dissolve the shadows and reveal the hidden light that dwells within us all. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and above all, keep shining.